Hi, I'm Mike Goncalves, motivational speaker and coach. Thanks for being here. Hey guys, Mike Goncalves here, motivational speaker and coach for small businesses and startups. I'm joined today with Aaron Velky, a friend of mine who's also a social entrepreneur, CEO of Ortus Academy. He works with small businesses and startups. Great guy, and I wanted to come on here today with him just because him and I have been chatting a ton as far as like helping each other out when it comes to times right now that we're all experiencing, this whole coronavirus epidemic. And hey, man, how do we keep winning? How do we keep doing what we must do to do what we have to do for our businesses, for those we serve? Aaron, super excited, man, to have this conversation with you today and actually record it and share it with those who are willing to listen.
Dude, I'm glad to be here, man. I could not be more grateful to share some time with you. And like you said, just add as much as we can to those that are paying attention right now.
What I really want to focus on with you today is three things. And the very first thing that I wanted to ask you about, and I actually wrote it down because I didn't want to, I don't want to miss any of these because they're super important. It's safe to say we're all struggling to some extent financially. I mean, I certainly am. I mean, from a business perspective, we're having to things are on like lockdown right now, obviously, in many different ways, not just being in our houses, but even just with selling and what we're able to do and people taking our courses, et cetera. It's a very challenging time for a lot of us financially. So what I want to know from you is, what do we do? Like, because there's a concern, not just right now that like, man, is my business going to make it? What do I do? How do I play my employees? Like, what if I have to be shut down for another 30 days? Like, is this possible? What if I do shut down? And one other thing, and I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but what about when this is all said and done? The effect it's going to have on not just us financially, but even our psyche. Like, holy moly, this is a possibility for me down the road that this could happen again. And what if I fail? So there's a lot of moving parts. So I'd love your take out of the gate. Like, what do we do to handle these financial challenges now and in the future?
Well, I will try my best to handle this like a horse at Preakness, coming out of the gate quick. One, let's level the playing field really quickly. Individuals may be feeling financially challenged, businesses, startups. And what's interesting about this time is that even if you still have the same job, you might still feel challenged, not because you've been directly impacted, but because you might, right? So it's causing a lot of friction and fear to circle, whether you are furloughed, laid off, your business is shutting down, you're figuring out how to pivot. There's just a lot of different emotions that are a part of this challenge. And we've been working with a lot of different small businesses, startups, to help them navigate pivots and what their new direction may be. And I think it's important to level it, right? As human beings, money is an energy source, right? The way that we like to say it is money is energy. And so we can use that in a variety of ways. But if it is the same for all of us, there are probably some component parts that we can strip away. So a really important piece that may give like an upfront shock more than it sounds like it should is take an inventory. The number of individuals that do not know where they are is staggering. And that might not, it sounds like a daunting process. It might just be check your bank account, check your credit card statements, right? The goal right now is to take something that is typically uncertain and find as much that is clear and certain as you can. So if we can take our bank account and know where we are, take our credit card statement and know where we are, we can create certainty from the disarray. So that's one phenomenal first step. Just figure out where you are, right? If you think about a GPS system, it is completely unworkable if it doesn't know where you already are. It just won't, it can't get you to any destination. So that's a great place to start.
Sure.
The second is to lean in and have conversations with creditors, with neighbors, with those around you. I think this is a phenomenal time to think of the community as your home. And that means you can call your creditor. Creditors right now are offering a lot of, we'll call it support, where you can delay payments, postpone them, and then not be charged interest or late fees. So it's a really good place to go there. Same with student loans, same with mortgage payments, right? They're doing a great job of providing support. But there's also people right next to you, your neighbors, your peers, that you can kind of create a commune with, right? Hey, I'm going to Sam's Club. I don't need 14 pounds of berries, but how about we all just chip in $5 and we each get way more than we need and we can freeze what we don't need, right? There's ways to offset costs like that. So leaning in on that community is going to be a really important part. That could mean you share a Netflix account. That could mean that, you look at other resources. If you don't have a car, maybe you can borrow a car or someone can run an errand for you. There's a variety of different ways to lean in. I think that's important. For anyone that's in business and experiencing a variety of different emotions, it's also important to consider the choices that you're going to be making as emotional choices. So it's really important to pause before you make choices. So I guess tip number 3 would be pause. In a furor and emotionally chaotic environment, we tend to make these flash choices, not in the best of mindsets, right? And not in the best of circumstances. So the pause can be a phenomenal way to get a little bit of distance and evaluate our choices. For example, let's say that you're an individual and you've just been furloughed. So you got to take a little bit of time that's unpaid. And you might immediately respond and say, well, I'm not making any money now. I'm going to X. It's more likely that emotional choice with all that trigger and all of your brain chemistry wired to be in fear mode, fight, flight, or freeze, is either making the wrong choice or an unevolved choice. If you're a business owner, so as an individual, that's going to affect you, maybe your family as well. As a business owner, if you're making those kinds of choices, it's going to ripple for your entire team. And this is where coaching, consultants, things that we do, things that you do can be really helpful because you have an unbiased perspective. But even just taking time to recognize that your choice as a business owner, when it's chaotic, is going to impact your team, the culture, the longevity of the business, the certainty that you provide people. All of these choices, when they're baked with emotion, are very, very likely to cause more damage than they prevent. And I think financial challenge is really common. Again, even if you're you're good, maybe you have a lot of assets and your 401k just tanked, or you have a business and all of your clients just walked away. I know both of us experienced that.
Yeah.
So events had to be canceled that we had already booked. So that's reality. But what I'm noticing is that what people assume is uncertainty can be clarified, right? We can walk into the mist and then find the things in close proximity to put our hands on and say, okay, this is stable. Just by taking an inventory, looking at what's around us, seeing what's in the community, and then pausing before we make these emotional choices. I think those are really critical right now.
You nailed it, man. Right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I know for myself as well, my business personally and professionally, that's scary. And I think what you just said, taking inventory, that's one of the fastest ways to really address the uncertainty. Hey, where do I stand? Versus oh my goodness, the sky's falling. Take a second. Where do you stand? Take an inventory. I think that's massive, man. I love the GPS example you stated, because it's you don't know, if you don't know where you're headed, if you don't know where you are, you can't really decide which way to go. So, which ties right back into, take inventory. Absolutely. The community part, that one is massive, because you and I have heard it said, Aaron, right, alone we can go far. Together we'll go further. And now more than ever, man, we're looking to go further, because especially during the unprecedented time we're dealing with. But the last one, I'll say the pause. The pause to me is giant. And it goes right back to the GPS one. Let's just say the days we didn't have GPS. If you're driving around and you're lost, if you just keep driving around, you're not going to figure out where you're going. So if we want to take it back further to the days when we didn't have GPS, what did you do when you were lost? Stop the car, pause, take out your map. Okay, where am I? What's the sign say? Figure it, and then but it starts with that pause. And that's why I love that you said that we can apply that whole GPS to both of those. And I thought that was fantastic. What I wanted to go back to, and this came to mind, and perhaps I'm asking for myself as well. There is so many programs out there right now that people can take advantage of from a financial standpoint. What are your thoughts around that? Because I'm sure there's a lot of business owners that are thinking, man, I'm limited with my time, energy, and effort right now. And if I'm going to do this, I would love to know it's going to help me, but there's uncertainty there too. What are your thoughts there?
Well, on top of that, you've got like now services. It created a whole marketplace of services, people helping navigate those. So what I'm noticing is that the help is available, but it's really ambiguous, and it is very scary. There is lots of red tape. There's a lot of confusion, and I've got to have all these reports ready, and I've got to have these documents, and am I prepared? In a simple way, these support programs are designed for business owners to get the funding they need. But they're not the only support mechanisms. Like, we called our bank and are going through the process of a traditional loan, right? It's a traditional loan, but rules right now are very malleable. So there are options that are at the forefront, SBA loans, disaster relief funds, et cetera. But there are also plenty of traditional options that still haven't gone away. Where I think the hang up is for a lot of people is, we look at what's required and we put that fence up so high rather than just building small stairs, right? These SBA loans, at least like the PPP, you had to go through your bank. And a great place to start was just to call your bank, right? Let's not make it overly complicated. Let's just call and say, hey, can you help me figure out what my next step is? And the banks have a lot of incentive to help you, because it's free money for them too. So it's really incentivized for them to support you. Now, from what I've seen and read, most of the funding for some of these different buckets has been exhausted. Nonetheless, it is still a great time to, I think, ask for help from your bank, from your creditors, from your customers, right? From your vendors. It's a great time. This is back to the community, right? If you look at, instead of looking at just stockholders, owners, look at your stakeholders, all the individuals that are a part of this, customers, vendors, families, admin, everybody. And think of that as your neighborhood. You can make these asks. Hey, we don't have a way to get this to you, but here's what we can do. We had to ask a customer for, like, hey, look, I know that everybody has obligations. Is there a way that we can close the contracts, the invoices, even if it's just partial, so that we can keep our team afloat, right? Just having the courage to ask and setting aside the ego. Hey, we need help right now. Hey, things aren't going great, right? I think as entrepreneurs, that is a big, big hurdle. Just being like, hey, this is not going great. It takes a lot of bravery to say that, right? And unlike any other time in history, this is affecting the globe. So those of us that can humble ourselves, we talked about vulnerability on some of our personal calls, like vulnerability is huge. And to go to someone and say, hey, look, I could really use some help right now. Or, hey, can I pick your brain? Or, hey, can you help me flesh out this idea? That is going to be life-changing. Fund sources aside, if you can't ask for help, how will you ever get it?
You know what I love mostly there, Aaron, is you said, hey, ask for help. Ask for help. It's one of the things I know I've struggled in the past with doing. And what better time now than ever where everyone seems to be asking for help. It's almost kind of expected at this time. And what I love about that, for myself included, and really in my mind, I really, if I seem like I'm kind of somewhere else, is because I'm really thinking about different ways that where I can leverage what you just said with my own, my own community and those I serve. But even just taking it back to my business, it's going to help identify places where I can be even more efficient, where perhaps I wasn't before. And yes, maybe it's sad that it has to come down to this, where I can identify these efficiencies for myself to where I can operate my business in a way that I perhaps would never have thought of, but it's possible. And I love what you said. And it's like, sometimes take it down to the basic ground level. Like, perhaps, yeah, there's a lot of red tape with some of these programs out there. You don't have to start there. If that freaks you out, you don't know where to start, you don't have to. Guess what? Like you said earlier, talk to your neighbors, go on into a communal like Costco run. It starts there. Start simple. like you said, call your bank. Just have that one-on-one conversation. They might guide you. They might just have that one-on-one. You might not even have to fill out the form because you've been a customer for the last 15 years. They might just expedite it a little faster. So I love what you said. Hey, man, just do the things you know you can do, you feel comfortable doing. You start there.
Let me add one more thought. There's a lot of companies that are like, we'll help you, right? We'll help you, right? We'll step in and we'll do the application for you. And some of it's somewhat predatory. I mean, you have to give up all of your business information to apply for these things. But I also think that maybe, depending on where you are as a business, you can consider that the problem isn't just money, right? It might be paralysis. It might be you're not making choices. And Mike, I know you and I are both coaches in a lot of ways. We have a coaching arm as well. And we've got some services that are similar to coaching in a lot of ways. But what I'm seeing more and more is that a business might have, a small amount of money to get by. And where I think the difference in entrepreneurship and business lie, right? Entrepreneur is a word that's thrown around way too much in my opinion. But when I hear an entrepreneur speak right now, what they're saying is, I've got X amount of dollars. I need to make sure that this is driven the right direction. So I'm going to find support. I'm going to find help. I'm going to find someone to like co-pilot with me, because I know I've got emotions. I'm sometimes in the weeds. I'm sometimes making these irrational choices. And in many ways, I think now there's coaches everywhere. People are stepping in, and there's been a rebound to that. At the same time, there's a lot of value in having somebody there next to you to be like, look, you got one punch. You got to land this. You got one shot, one basket to shoot. This has to be a good shot. Let's not just like chuck the ball up and hope that it lands. Right. Let's be meticulous. Let's take our time. Let's outline the risk. And, right now, companies, many of them can't afford to take risk. And it's a great time to call in support, right? We think of help right now as just the SBA. But there's other resources that are available. If you've got some cash in the tank, it's important to spend it well, right? We talk about in our business financial intelligence, right? And financial intelligence is more than just how money works and the use of it, but the way that our emotions drive our decisions and really align our choices collectively. And if someone is going to make a choice in business right now with limited resources, a really good use of funds is someone that's experienced the same thing, walks through the conversion online, walks through a pivot, walks through all these different elements that they may be experienced, and can sit next to them and say, let's take a deep breath. Let's do this together, right? And I think there's a hesitation because you're like, why am I going to have somebody spend money to give me help? And it's like, no. This is a great time for you to spend money on getting help. I think that's a really important like mental shift, right? We're not wasting money on getting help. We're using the money to get help.
That's a very important distinction to make between those two. And I'm glad you really slowed that down and made that distinction where I believe more than ever, I think it's always a great idea. And be quite frank, it's now more than ever. More than ever. These are uncharted waters. If anything, I need a lot, and actually not just need, I've actually been leaning on a lot of mentors, people that I respect, and reaching out to them. I've been in the game for 2 decades. I think I'm pretty comfortable with what I do, but I'm reaching out. I really am. I'm reaching out, asking for help, advice, for guidance, because these are times that I'm not familiar with. I'm not shy to admit that, and I think a lot of us are in that same boat. And like you said, if you have the means, if you have the ability to get that help, if you have that one shot, make it a good one. Hey, and I'm a realist, Aaron, and I know you are too. Guess what? You might take that shot and still miss.
Yep. And
I play the odds. I'm always saying with my business, with everything I do, I play the odds. I want to give myself the best odds of making that shot. Yep. Knowing how long I might still miss, but gosh darn it, I'm going to give myself the best possible chance of making the shot. It's that important to me. And so I couldn't agree with you more that if you have the ability to do that now. Don't delay, don't wait, don't be scared, but take the shot anyways. It's just keep moving forward. Do you think right now, is it just about staying afloat right now, or can we actually win? Like, what's your thoughts there?
Dude, that's a really good question. it's important that we define what winning is right now. It's critical. So there are tons of different definitions of winning. You go back 10 weeks, winning was tons of revenue growth, right? And over leverage. So you have a business, all businesses, especially here in the States, rely on growth. When growth stalls, everything stalls, right? So imagine being really over leveraged. 10 weeks ago, winning was, well, we just took on, $5 million in debt to grow. And all of a sudden, all of that debt and that overextension snapped off of the arm, and we lost an entire arm of a business, right? Winning was different then. Winning now can be seen as a variety of things. And it's really important that our intra definition of success mirrors our outra.
I know. Yeah.
However that language works, what I'm seeing is that people are like, well, winning right now for me is the same level of income. I'm like, cool. That's a great definition. Let's make sure that's aligned with your actions and what's possible. Whereas some may say, well, winning is showing support. I certainly believe that right now. Showing up for people is winning to me. Not because I need to win, because we need to win. This is a we problem. Someone might say, well, we is being relevant, or winning is being relevant. I think there's some reality in that, right? Can I provide value? And when people are ready, they can come back to me. But at an individual level, we've got to define what winning is. Personally, I think winning is completely possible. But my definition of winning is not, growth on growth on growth, where we're recruiting customers on customers on customers. Our work has been in financial education, right? We're working with small business owners. We're working with young adults, families, schools, organizations, things like that. We have a pretty wide diaspora of impact. But it would also be irresponsible to say, look, spend all of your money, families, spend all of your money. Like, we want them to be cared for as well. So we took our product and made it free for families that have kids at home. And to me, that's a win, right? Awesome. It's not revenue win. It's longevity win. It's the finite versus the infinite. If our like whole platform is based on a vision of the world where people are making aligned choices with their money. And I think it's really critical that our wins align with that vision. If they don't, how can we possibly, one, commend ourselves, and two, we'll miss the target, right? Like 2 degrees difference now makes a wide gap at the top. So whatever it is that motivates you, you can find your wins. One, you got to be realist and I think somewhat of an optimist, but if you can find your clarity in the win, absolutely you can win. Maybe it's just email subscriber growth. Like that's plenty to win right now. Maybe it's the number of clicks, the number of people that see your ads, or let's get even wilder. Maybe it's the number of hours you spend with your kid, right? Maybe it's the number of hours you spend on a bike, right? That could be a win. Especially if you're the workaholic, drive, and you never spend time with your kid. Do you have breakfast with your kid? That's a win, right? To me, that's financial intelligence. I know the difference between the money win and that game and the real wins.
I love so much of what you just said right there. Number one is defining your win. And you mentioned some wins that people perhaps wouldn't even think of. Because when I asked about the wins, right? Like, hey, how can you still win? The thought is like, well, can we still win? Can I still make the sale? Can I still hit my, get my budget? Can I still meet quota? Well, that's the traditional way of looking at it. You're saying, hey guys, perhaps now, and here's the cool thing, perhaps not just now, but definitely now because of what's going on, redefine perhaps your wins. What does that look like? What does winning look like? And maybe it is spending more time with your child that perhaps you didn't even look at that before. But the cool thing is, for everyone listening, this doesn't just have to be a way to define success now. This can be a way to define success always. And, so I love that you said that, Aaron. I know we're having this conversation now during these times, and we're trying to help and serve as best we can during these really uncertain, scary times. But hopefully this is information that carries way past. When all this is said and done, we can still take what you said and apply that and to have greater success, not just like professionally, but also personally. You also said something that you and I have talked about in the past. It's the words, the finite versus the infinite game. You've said that in the past. I've heard you say it. I love it. So what I want to know is, and this is, I find myself asking myself this question regularly, is, how do I stay calm? And, I think I'm a calm guy. I meditate, I exercise, I'm positive. I focus on, the good and what's to come. But how do we stay calm how do you stay calm during a time like this financially, when like, hey, at the end of the day, I can say, hey, this is a win. I'm spending time exercising more. I'm spending time with my family. That's awesome. But let's you and I be honest. At the end of the day, the money is still important for me to live, for me to feed my family, myself, perhaps pay my employees. How do I stay calm during a time like this right now?
And I'm just kind of thinking about moments I've had where I'm like immediately triggered and my heart rate, starts pumping through the roof. I've got all kinds of different emotions swirling.
Same.
An exercise that I think is helpful personally and with a business group, with a team, with friends, with peers, is to have the conversation about what the worst case scenario is.
Yeah, I love
like
that.
just have it out, man. And we did this as a team. Like, what are you afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because it sounds like a very negative exercise, but I think it's a very healthy one. It forces us to healthily acknowledge possibilities and detach from them. So we can really let go of like the burning pan, instead of keeping our hand on it and dealing with like, ooh, that's really painful. We say, yeah, if I put my hand there, it's going to hurt. Now I can let go of it. And what it did for me personally was allowed me to vocalize that I was afraid of letting my team down, that they wouldn't be taken care of, that they wouldn't have what they need. That's my primary concern. And when I got that out, two things happened. One, me saying it lifted it from me. But two, and I think most importantly, they were able to show up for me and say, hey, look, man, we appreciate that you care about us. Thank you for caring so much about us that's your main priority. But we're going to be okay, right? We're each individuals that are strong, and we're gonna figure this out. But going through the exercise has a power of taking away the gravity of it. And you can get into the tactics of like meditation, and if you've got a faith, then pray. If you've got peers around you, you can lean in on them. But having the conversation about what's most fearful for you is a phenomenal starting block. Another way to stay calm that kind of circles back to our original point is like inventory what you can control. Like, there's so many things you have zero way to change. And if you look at what you're focused on, if you look at your attention, if you look at your direction, and you realize that it's all based on what you think the world is going to do, or where this phase is, or where that's happening, and when this changes, you're going to spin yourself in circles. You're just spending energy that you can't get back. So doubling down on what you can control. Can you write content right now? Yes. Can you control how many people read it? No. Can you publish a video? Can you record an interview and then post it and not pay attention to, did it get comments? Like, that's out of your control. Can you just do the work? And we live in a world that really loves to be validated, and validation comes from external sources, whereas worthiness is one of these internal sources. And I'm really working on this. So I say this more for me than anybody else, but working on doing the things that you need to do, process the thing that you need to do over and over and over. Do that without even paying attention to the outcome, because the outcome is largely out of your hands. And if I want to be calm, I've got to let go of, well, did people click it? Did they buy it? Did they do this? Did they come in my store? Did they buy the extra sauce? Whatever business industry you're in, it's all the same. If you can do the things that work, or that you believe will work on a regular basis, make the content, share the post, create the product, double down on research, whatever your process is, do that and let go. There's a really good book back here somewhere called the Tao Te Ching, Taoteching. It's kind of a Buddhist theory book, with kind of like short, almost like poems. But there's a line that I've been really fixated on lately, and it's just that the master does the work without connection to the outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's stated way, way better than that. But it was, the master does the work and lets go. And, the first part, take inventory of, or like go through your fear exercise, see what the worst case scenario is. Do you have to sell your house? Cool. Talk about it. Do you have to sell your car? Cool. Talk about it. Whatever that is, get there. And then you can get to a point where you can just let go of the things you don't need and the things that are out of your control and just focus there. And yes, those fears will still linger, right? We're not ignoring them. We're not like bypassing them. We're just being mindful to express them, and then mindful enough to say, this is what I have influence over. The rest is insignificant.
Do me a favor. Let people know if they want more information from you. Where can they find you? Where can they reach out? Where can they ask you questions? Where can they get all that stuff?
Yeah, I love that. So our website is ortusacademy.com. So that's O-R-T as in Tom, U-S. Ortus is Latin for new beginning, revolution, which is quite fitting right now. Right. So that's ortusacademy.com. There you can reach out to us. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. Find us on Instagram. A lot of different places, but our website's a great place to start. We're really grateful to have this. And look, I'll end with this or share this maybe post-mortem. The fact is, like, I'm scared too, right? And I think when people have reached out and said, hey man, you're helping, I appreciate your videos, or like, that's just the message I needed right now, I am consistently reminded that I am also scared. I just believe that it's possible to be brave and scared at the same time, right? We can experience multiple emotions. And if you're out there and you're listening and you are worried about the outcome, you're worried about the judgment, you're worried about what could possibly happen, you've got some real tools here that might help. But it's okay to be scared and still do it, right? That's the key here. Is even the bravest of soldiers were the most afraid. And another reference to a very old book, right? The Art of War. The warrior leads with fear, right? We don't like, that's our sword. And there's just a lot of really awesome ways to envision being brave and being scared at the same time, right? Let the fear motivate you forward, because I think we're all feeling that. Yeah.
I got to say, man, it's an absolute pleasure to have you, on my side, on my team. You're an inspiration, man. I appreciate you, your friendship. I'm grateful for everyone listening. I appreciate you guys, tuning in. I hope this is super helpful, impactful. Just know that we're all in this together. We're going to get through it together. We're going to thrive together. So if I can be of help, reach out to me. If Aaron can, be of help, reach out to him. But, I want to thank everyone for listening, and just stay safe, stay healthy, and keep believing that we will get past this, because we absolutely will. But again, Aaron, thank you for your time today, man. I really appreciate it, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Dude, Mike, thank you so much for having me.